I'm Dr. And I'm super excited today to bring you some incredible information that we need to know. And that is how to battle the back to school brain. Yes, we are already we're more than halfway through August of 2025. Imagine that. Some kiddos have started to titrate back into school, and some are going to be going back in the next few weeks. And so there's a lot of shifts in routines and trying to get used to it from both mom and dad's end to grandparents' end to the kiddos' end. So the transition time can be a bit difficult, but let's look beyond that. And that's where I'm going to give you some amazing golden nuggets that you really must know in your practices. And what's that? That is how to screen to evaluate if a kiddo is neurologically ready for the demands of school. We're going to drop three, I can count, three basic things that I'm going to give you to do a 3 to 4 or 5 minute screening in your offices to evaluate, to help parents and kiddos understand where their kiddos at and to help them be the most successful in school. Ready, set, let's go. Let's do this. Okay, we're going to start. There's different ways you can screen for this. And the three things that you're going to look for are gross motor, fine motor, and oculomotor or visual motor. So again, there's different ways to screen for this. I am going to give you the most commonly cited in the literature. The reason I'm doing that is because if you want to dig in and dive into the literature like I do, you'll have something tangible to present to parents, teachers, counselors, so on and so forth. I do a lot of work with the schools in southeastern Idaho, and I've taught CE classes for them, and it's really been a huge stepping stone for my practice. And more on that in an upcoming episode potentially. But so that way you have some backing behind you. So let's go with gross motor first. Gross motor needs to come on board before fine motor and before ocular motor. Ocular motor or visual motor is a fine motor skill. So we're going to start with the granddaddy, the tree trunk. Okay. And how can we easily screen for that in our practices? Okay. Tandem walk, heel toe walk. Now, I'm going to base this off of a 5-year-old-ish skills. So obviously, if a 5-year-old is not successful in accomplishing these motor skills, these sensory motor skills, then definitely a 6, 7, 8, 14-year-old should be. Got it? So we can use this screening for those that should be neurologically ready to start kindergarten and beyond. Okay. And I advocate, I've been teaching for over 30 years, and I would tell people, if you want to build your practices, do these screenings, go to daycares, go to your churches, your local moms groups, whatever, and say, hey, let's line these little fiddle farts up that are just going to start entering into kindergarten, and let's see how we can help make their life as stress-free and as successful as possible when they get into school. Okay, cool. So tandem walk, heel toe walk. It is literally matching the heel to the toe and walking a line. Get some duct tape. They've got some cool duct tapes out now, right? They've got Superman or characters on them or whatever, fun stuff for kiddos. Put about an 8 to 10 foot line down a hallway and have them heel toe walk. And I say heel toe with no spaces, meaning they have to butt their heel up to their toe as they take each step. A 5-year-old should be able to do that successfully, eyes open at this point. Now, if you want to do it eyes closed, that will just enhance their need for proprioceptive skills. Okay, but let's go with 5-year-olds, eyes open. Heel toe walk, 8 to 10 feet forward. Can they do that successfully without falling over to one side, without losing their balance? Can they do it butting their heel up to their toe, no spaces in between? Next one for gross motor. Now we're still on gross motor, okay? Can they balance on one leg successfully for at least 10 seconds? And that means that they balance only on one leg and they don't use the other leg as a crutch. It's called posturing. So do they have to, if they're balancing on their left leg, do they have to have their right leg up and propping, butted up against their left leg to support their left leg? That's a no-no, okay? That's called posturing. So can they stand on each leg for at least 10 seconds? They should be able to do that successfully. Boom, there's your gross motor skills. If they're struggling with one of those, then that's a red flag in the back of your brain. Now we put that together with fine motor. Sequential finger touching. Can they sequential finger touch each hand separately and both hands together? Now, there's some keen eye things that you're going to look for here. Do they do what I say, happy O's? Okay, big O's, happy O's, Cheerios. We're doing happy O's and Cheerios. We're not doing squishy O's. Okay, we're not doing this because squishy O's is a little cheat. When they do squishy O's, they're looking for more surface space on their fingers for more proprioceptive and tactile input into the brain, because this gives them less. And this is a more accurate fine motor skill. So single-handed, both-handed, happy O's, not squishy O's. 5-year-olds should be able to do that. And the other thing you're going to look for is, do they have any overflow movement? Used to call it overflow movement. Now they call it a neurological soft sign because they have to change names of everything. All right. So what that means is, while one hand is doing the work, is there another body part that they're using as a crutch in order to make this happen? For instance, are they doing this? Using their tongue, their mouth, or is the other hand trying to move at the same time the working hand's moving? That's called overflow or assisted movement, or a neurological soft sign. And that's meaning that each hemisphere isn't as strong as it should be, and it doesn't have an inhibitory effect on the opposite side that should not be working. Okay, that's a fine motor skill. Getting a shoestring and some cheap little beads at the dollar store and seeing if tie one end of the shoestring in a knot so the beads don't fall off. Can they string about 10 beads with their right hand and with their left hand? Can they do it each side? Can they pick up the bead? Again, fine motor. Can they pick up the bead, manipulate it, and put it on a shoestring? Right hand, left hand. Boom. Now we got gross motor covered. We've got fine motor covered. Can they do these successfully? And what can we do for ocular motor or visual motor? Put a beanbag on their head so they can't move their head, and you tell them, don't let that beanbag fall off. Okay? So that makes sure that they're upright against gravity, standing straight with good posture. The beanbag's on their head. Don't move your head because that beanbag can't fall off. And I want you to watch my special pen only with your eyes, not with your head, no head movement. And basically what you're looking for is, can they visually track across the midline without moving their head? And can their eyes have a smooth pursuit across the midline at least 6 times? That's for tracking, okay, eye tracking. Then for convergence and divergence, by the way, visual processing, again, is going to be a fine motor skill because you're using the fine ocular eye muscles around the eye to navigate the eyes. Visual processing is very much associated with dyslexia, fine motor skills, reading, writing issues, and ADHD has a high correlation with visual processing dysfunction. If we can't get gross motor on board first, that tree trunk, if they can't balance, they can't tandem walk, it's going to be hard to get those fine motor skills on board. And your second screening for ocular motor is convergence and divergence. And that's where, again, standing up, good posture, because you want vestibular and proprioceptive information maxed out, because Not one sensory system is working at a time. They're all working together, right? Especially visual, vestibular, and proprioceptive. Those are the three big systems that are associated with learning, attention, behavior, and post-concussion, post-head injuries, etc. You have your little secret pen or whatever you want them to track out far, and you're looking, can they watch Miss Llama's head as it's coming into you, about 2 to 4 inches from the nose, and then as it moves out. So it's convergence and divergence. And what you're looking for are both eyes teaming equally and accurately. As it's coming in for convergence, do those eyes tag team and they're both turning in equally, accurately at the same rate and time? And can they hold it? Or does one eye struggle and want to dart back out? Then as the object's diverging, can those eyes equally and accurately at the same timing turn back out and relax? Okay, so boom, bah, there you have it. There's your 3-point screening, 5 minutes or less, to assess if a person is neurologically ready, if a kiddo is neurologically ready to sit in school and for learning, attention, behavior, etc. If these skills are not mature enough, their brain is telling you, their nervous system is telling you that it's not ready to take in all this academic information throughout the day. And what does that result in? That results in kooky brain, a crazy brain, right? That it results in the kiddo that just shuts down, or that's squirming around and can't pay attention, or maybe is labeled as ADD, ADHD. It's because the systems and networks in the brain aren't ready to handle the load that they're about to endeavor. Now, how then do we tie this into chiropractic? Boom, here's your scoop. All right, mom, dad, teachers, counselors, principals, whoever you're talking, whatever your audience is, right? All this information's jumping into the base of the brain, the little brain. It's called the cerebellum. All this sensory information from the outside world and inner world to tell for my brain to know what my body needs to be able to balance, to move my eyes in a certain way. It comes in from this sensory input and it lands in the cerebellum. And then it takes a hopscotch jump up to the part of the brain that integrates all the sensory input. And then it skips up to the front part of the brain where our executive functioning takes over. And that's where you will grab them, because so many people now are very savvy when you say the words executive functioning. That is a part of the brain that is needed for learning, attention, behavior, social skills, self-modulation. It's very much associated with ADHD and not being able to sit and pay attention. So when I'm examining little Charlie here, and I did this little screening and I saw that there was some areas that he's struggling in. Did you see that he can't heel toe walk? He always wants to fall to his right side. Yeah. And then he had trouble balancing on his right leg. And when we asked him to do happy O's or boom booms, he had really a hard time with his right hand. It was just like his brain was just disconnected from his body. And the stringing the beads on the right side was hard. That could tell me that the right side of this bottom part of the brain isn't getting the information in as it needs to. And it's not sending the information to the left side of the brain that's involved in this executive functioning. And then they perk up. Okay. But the good news is that I also examined little Charlie. I examined his spine for vertebral subluxations. And I found that there's some areas in his spine, look right here by his lower part of his neck and down by his hips. Look, he's 6 years old. He's probably taken some rough and tumble falls, right? Oh yeah, he's a rough kid. Yeah, okay. These vertebral subluxations, it's misalignments. It's those areas of the spine that aren't moving properly. And that's gonna disconnect the information from his body to his brain. And then his brain really doesn't know the status of his body and where his fingers are, or where his eye muscles have to move in order to read. And that can lead to disconnect between the brain and the body and the brain. But guess what? We have seen in the chiropractic neuroscience world that by removing vertebral subluxations, by doing a very specific chiropractic adjustment, it helps this information coming into the brain to process better, for the brain to process. And you know what? There's a couple key areas that we know of that have been affected in a good way. And that happens to be where that information jumps in at that base of the brain and where the information is in that executive part of the brain. So now these studies have been done on adults. These are mostly where we're seeing the findings, but a study that came out about a year ago, these amazing chiropractors were doing it in school program and adjusting kiddos, and saw that some of those signs of ADHD were less than in those kiddos that were receiving chiropractic care in the school setting. How about that, Mom? That's amazing. So what I'm telling you is, what I would propose is that little Charlie, we start him under a program here, and we help the brain get the information from the body, help the sensory input be organized and integrated, and we watch and we check these motor skills to see how they come along, because that's going to help give us a status of what Charlie may or may not need at a given time. Boom. There's your exam. There's your ROF. There's your interpretation to your audience, whoever they are, about neurologically focused chiropractic for kiddos. Now, if you want to go on to add neurointegrative exercises or what have you, that is just a caveat to helping regulate and remove those vertebral subluxations. So there you have it. School readiness from a neurologically focused chiropractic lens. If you want more of this incredible information, scroll down, take a look at the link, jump on now, because these kiddos need you. They need you so bad. Join our Foundations of Neurodevelopment program. Learn more. Become the go-to pediatric chiropractor in your community. I can't wait to see you on the inside.